Yeah. Hi guys, I'm Sebastian or Seb Lyle, founder of a company called Lollipop. I'll give you a little introduction about what Lollipop does and then move on to the subject of how the new wave of technology, specifically Web3, NFTs, Metaverse, is going to impact our industry and how we should not be left behind like we usually are as an industry, which is famous for innovating too late. So what do we do as a business? Our moral or our idea is to reimagine what hospitality means, reimagine the customer experience in a bar or a restaurant, what a bar or a restaurant means to the younger people or the new wave of consumers, and to preempt possible shifts in culture. So we don't actually look at what's trending elsewhere. We actually try to understand what people would want and then design our bars and experiences around that. Some of the examples are the Naked Restaurant, for example, that was ours, the Breaking Bad inspired bar, the Bletchley in Chelsea. So very experiential, immersive concepts. And then last year, of course, something happened, or the year before something happened, and then we had to think widely about how we kind of changed the whole structure of the business. For some reason, the business actually grew much faster and into different dimensions than we actually thought. So now our company is split into 3 different sections. The hospitality is our fun houses, which I'll explain in a bit what it is. Product in 2020, we launched a bottled, ready-to-drink cocktail range called Cocktails by Lollipop, 6 days after the lockdown. So that was a great achievement. On the 20th of March, we were locked down, and 26th of March, we've shipped our first box out. And then this year, we've launched the technology division, which is looking at how this new wave of protocols and technology is going to change our industry and our company. So a fun house, what is a fun house? I guess, I don't know if anyone has ever been to this one. This is on World's End, on King's Road, Chelsea Fun House. The idea is a venue which has 3 different experiences, which offer you 5-6 hours of entertainment in the building, predominantly led by the experience or by the immersive experience. So in this case, we got the Bletchley, which is a escape room and cocktail bar in one. And then we have a restaurant, a French restaurant called Jolie, and an espresso martini bar and a terrace. So initially, we started off by just doing experiences, and now we've just rebranded our venues into fun houses. We got Chelsea Fun House, Hackney Fun House, Shoreditch Fun House is opening. So the idea is to open more fun houses, multi-experiential venues. Product division launched last year. As Tom was saying, whoever innovated, whoever went in first actually was quite successful, and similarly with us. Initially, we were very consumer-driven, so it was all B2C, directly to people's homes. But now, actually, our focus has become trade. Places like Pizza Pilgrim, for example, or wine bars or theaters or cinemas, where you need consistent quality and speed, but don't potentially need to make the cocktails from scratch or don't need the bartenders. So now we are in a few bars and restaurants, in a few cinemas, in Vinoteca, for example. They've taken us in all of their 7 branches, Backyard Cinema. We got a pub chain on board. So that product is becoming more and more on-premise, direct-to-trade product, which is quite exciting for us. We've just actually opened our factory in Woolwich 3-4 weeks ago. And last, which I'm going to talk about, is our technology division. I think, the world is about to change. I think we are, you must have heard this again and again. It's like how internet was in the late 90s or mid-90s. It's very exciting. It's very fun. And I think we need to understand what's happening and how we can use this technology in our favor and innovate, not just our companies, but our industry as a whole. So today I'll cover what is Web3, the concepts which are going around and everyone is talking about, NFTs, DAOs, funding, tokenization, and then use cases for hospitality, and then future of experiences, and then any questions if you guys have. So what is Web3? For me, Web3 is internet, which was promised to us in the 90s, the internet of fun, the internet of gamification, the internet of cool things. A decentralized internet where nobody actually owns internet. It's a peer-to-peer connection between people and nodes all across the world. which changed in Web 2.0, where companies like Google, Facebook, they started owning these spaces. To give you an example, in the 1990s, we had some protocols, maybe some of you have heard of it, TCP/IP, which is Internet's transmission protocol, SMTP, email. Guys, if this gets a bit technical, it's fine, I'll answer the questions later. HTTP, of course, the internet. And the idea at that time was flow of data. So you could go on and consume data, and that's it. You could take information. Then came Web 2.0. The speed of internet became faster, so you could actually not only consume data, but share data and create content, and that's where we are right now. However, it's owned by companies, it's owned by large corporations, and it's a very centralized system. When I say centralized system, every company has its own database, every company has its own data. That data is not actually shared for the benefit of the community. It's actually shared it's actually sold, so you don't own your own data. Where we are right now, and I'm sure everyone has heard about Bitcoin, but actually Bitcoin is just one aspect of it, is a decentralized community-based network where, in very simple terms, the database is not owned by a company. It's owned by people. Anyone can go and access the data and see the transactions which have led to it. And here, the interesting thing is, not only I can create content and share it, but I can actually own it. And I'll talk about it and how we can implement that in hospitality. So, some example of how Web 1.0 looked like, Web 2.0 looked like, and how Web 3 is going to look like, or it's shaping to look like. So by the way, we are so early. If you guys are listening to it, or if you guys are doing research into it, we are, not even 0.1% of the population who would be talking about this. And that's why I think, I almost think it's almost our responsibility, whoever is sitting here, to actually introduce it to our industry, not just our company, because the whole idea of Web3 is that. So what is blockchain? Blockchain is simply a transaction happens, and that transaction is recorded on computers all over the world, which can be accessed by anyone. What are the elements of blockchain? It's decentralized. It's not managed by one company. It's managed by thousands of computers and millions of computers all over the world. It's immutable. Once, for example, a transaction is recorded, you just can't delete it. So, Mark Zuckerberg can't go and delete some data if he wanted to. It's transparent. Everyone can see the transactions, but it's private. Nobody can see your name. It's just a wallet address. It's just an address, an anonymous address. And it's safe. It's nearly impossible to hack into a decentralized database. So if you remember last year, there was a few websites in the UK, The Guardian, and a few other websites just went down. It was because their database got hacked. A blockchain database, it's just not possible, because you'd have to hack millions of computers around the world. So how do we use blockchain? Instead of using apps, we use decentralized apps. So it's basically the same thing, but they're not owned and they're not operated by one company. They're operated by the community. And that's where I think, for example, if you go and buy, any cryptocurrency from a decentralized exchange, it's a decentralized app which is connecting you with other people who want to sell it. So it's a peer-to-peer network instead of one owned by the company. So just to give you an example, that's a centralized system. In banking, of course, it's going to be very big in finance, where everything you have to do goes through a central bank. Funny enough, blockchain is like it used to be. It's cash, for example. Everyone is just doing peer-to-peer payments, but the cash register is on the chain. So if I, for example, buy anything from you, and then you take that cash and buy anything from him, so there's no central party involved as such. We are doing peer-to-peer transactions, like barter, for example. But imagine if all of these transactions were recorded on a chain. That means if I'm buying certified organic fish from Scotland, I know that it's certified because it's on the chain. So that is going to be one of the innovations in food supply chain, how you can verify the products you're actually buying were actually coming from the source which they say it came from. Some concept of the Web3, I think it's, again, very new protocol, when I say very new, it's like internet in 1992. So it's very early stages. There's a lot of new ideas, a lot of new concepts, and I'm just going to talk about a couple of them and then explain to you how we can use them in hospitality. Crypto, I'm sure most of you guys know, this is basically a mode of currency. It's, some of you may not, I was not a believer 2-3 years ago, some of you might not believe in it. But as you look back, it's exactly what happened when paper money came and people didn't understand what the value of paper is until the community or the bank or whatever put a value on it. And I think that's what the idea is here. Whatever it is, if it's crypto or if it's a piece of paper, when people decide there's a demand and there's a supply for it, there's value for it. So I think interesting, what will happen eventually is a lot of us people who are selling online would start taking crypto payments because that saves us from the credit cards fee and all of that, which I will talk about. So because it's peer-to-peer, you don't have to pay those charges. Now, this has been a big subject recently, I guess. Everyone's been talking about NFTs. So what are NFTs? NFTs are literally a token. It could be anything. It could be a JPEG. It could be just an art piece. It could be anything. But the interesting thing is that they are assets which are tradable. So if I give you an example, if, for example, the badges you guys are wearing, they were tickets, and if they were issued to you as NFTs with, for example, some artwork on it by London's, one of the street artists. Now that will stay in your wallet, and eventually it could actually have a value, and you could sell it if the artist becomes famous. So I think eventually every expense you are making would become a tradable asset. And in this case, they cannot be replicated because they're unique. So you could be collecting NFTs for art, purely digital art, which again is, like we know, Beeple sold one for 69 million in an auction. It could have a utility. It could give you certain discounts, certain holder values. For example, all the discount cards and all the loyalty cards would eventually become NFTs. If I hold a loyalty card and I don't use it, I can sell it in the market, and it becomes tradable. And then community, I think that is becoming a big subject. We as a group, we have around 250,000 people in our database because of all the viral things we've done. And we still use a very traditional way of communicating with them, which is email. But this gives us an opportunity to bring them onto a single platform. When they are NFT holders, they come to there's a thing called Discord where everyone is chatting to each other, and then you can literally be in touch with your community in an instant. So, for example, so the difference between cryptocurrencies is this has inherent value, which can be traded for money. However, NFTs are more like membership cards or priority passes or club memberships, which can be traded for another thing, basically. This is a very new concept, which is going to challenge all of us who are entrepreneurs. DAOs are decentralized autonomous organizations, which are run by the community. So, for example, I am part of a DAO right now, and we invest in blue chip art. So what we are doing is we are actually buying art from Andy Warhol or Banksy and displaying that in New York. And then when the art gets sold, the profit gets distributed to the community. The decision making, however, is taken by the community and not by the CEO, not by the management. So for example, you can start a DAO for a new restaurant. Everyone puts money in one way or another through NFTs or through cryptos, and they decide what the menu is, and they decide where the location is going to be. So the voting happens online. It's a very early stages. I think 2022, you'll see a lot of DAOs coming up because this is the easiest way to crowdfund. So for example, a new restaurant, fractional asset ownership of a vehicle, for example. Right now, it's all done manually. That all becomes digital. E-commerce website, it could be anything. And then how do you reward your DAO members, you give them tokens back. And then the tokens can be used, basically it's money. Tokens can be used in other websites, in their own ecosystem. So it's a whole new concept of actually developing your own ecosystem where the community members make the decision and then they get rewarded in terms of in tokens. Now, this I know is very technical, so let me make it easy for you. Simply put, a restaurant bar idea is now called a project. A head chef owner is now called the founder. Guests and customers, the people who are going to make your project successful, are part of the DAO. Shares are like NFTs. Share certificates is the JPEG you get. Investment deck is like a roadmap. Revenues are revenues, and dividends are like tokens. So this is the new stage. This is the new paradigm, I think, which is going to kick in very fast. I don't think we're looking at 5 to 10 years. I think we're looking at 1 to 3 years. That's just because the adoption rate it's just way faster than it was in the 1990s. So for me, I think the next step, which we have always done in our company, is we used to pre-sell our reservations even before we had a name of our bar and restaurant. So we were actually kind of doing this 5 years ago, but I think now it will go on the blockchain and everyone could see, and that community-driven hospitality aspect is so important that, the ideas of how the menu should look like and how the restaurant should look like, I personally think it shouldn't really come from the founder, or it shouldn't really come from one person or 5 people. It should come from the community, because in the end, they are the ones who are going to make your place successful. And that's the whole idea. When we try to understand culture, great, but I don't think all of us can understand culture. This gives culture back to the people and let them make the decisions. So your business is never going to fail because they own a bit of it, basically. Use cases for hospitality. I think this is quite important to put things in perspective. Funding, as I talked about it. So we are about to do, which I'll talk about, we're about to do an NFT campaign where if you hold a Lollipop NFT, you get X, Y, Z, and you get X amount of revenue every month or every week in terms of tokens. So funding, instead of me going to VCs and private equity and angel investors, I just go to my community. And I don't have to go through all the red tape. I'll just issue NFTs, and that's how we do the funding. Payments. We as a group spend something between 100 or 200 grand in just payments every year. That will just go. That shouldn't go to one company. That should go to people who are processing that payment. And in blockchain, for example, that goes to all the computers in the world which are helping you to process that payment. So the revenue goes back to the community. And I think that's the basics of Web3 and decentralization. For example, I'm sure some of you know this guy. He's the founder of Airbnb. He tweeted early in Jan and asked what people want, and those are the answers. And these are not only thought leaders. These are industry leaders. If Airbnb starts taking crypto payments, what does that mean for all of us? How easy it will become for someone to buy, for example, a Pizza Pilgrim kit or cocktails by Lollipop, because your wallet stays in the browser. So as soon as you go to the website, it's already there. The money is already there. You don't need to fill in those forms or do anything. It's just so it becomes very easy for companies, and it becomes very easy for consumers and guests. Memberships, as I said, I don't think any memberships or any discount cards would be physical. There's no need for it. I think there's been a lot of innovation where loyalty cards have gone onto mobile phones, but it's still centralized. A decentralized membership would mean your company, my company can use the same card because the database is shared. And then if I move the country, or I'm not using it, or I'm getting older, I can just sell the membership card because there's a secondary market for those memberships in terms of NFTs. Discounts and coupons, similar kind of concept. Supply chain, as I talked about, I think this is a very important subject. I think a lot of people just write wrong things on their menu. This is, homemade or organic or, ethically sourced. But if every transaction from that source is recorded in a public ledger, you would know this is right or wrong. So authenticity of anything Medicine is a big subject here because there's a lot of counterfeit medicine, but also for food. If you're part of the ethical trade agreement, for example, and you want to buy coffee from ethical traders in Africa, there is only one way to verify it. It's going to be if that record of transaction is public. And that's what's going to happen next. So big subject in terms of the food chain. I guess, not as sexy as the front of house and marketing experience. But I think for procurers, innovation menus, again, if you have a DAO, you just literally put ideas and your community, which kind of owns the place, they vote for it, and whatever gets won gets selected for the menu. And then why aren't they going to come and eat that thing? Because they selected it themselves. And last bit, the future of experiences in our industry. This is one of my passions. So you've already seen Ariana Grande doing, a concert in Fortnite, the game. This is just going to change the world. All of us could be somewhere else, transported. Our friends could join from other parts of the world and experience music experience and experience whatever kind of experience together. So I think this is coming very, very fast, and we got to understand how we can adopt that in our industry. Ordering, again, instead of going on Deliveroo and Uber Eats, I would be able to either just walk my avatar in the restaurant or have the VR glasses and go and just order and see the food before I'm ordering. Experiences across borders, this is a very important thing for us. I don't think escape rooms would eventually need prime property. Escape rooms you can do from anywhere. So this is one of our escape rooms in Southwark called The Grid. If we make it virtual or virtually accessible, then people from America can also do it, which is fascinating. So your market just opens up quite broadly. Reservations, this is a big thing for me. When I go to a restaurant, I choose a specific table. I don't like sitting in front of each other. So I always request, can we have a booth or can we sit next to each other? Now you'll be able to go and choose your own, your own table. Something which I think should be there anyway. It's like, airlines did it 5-7 years ago where you can choose your seat. Why can't we have that in restaurants? So that's also coming very soon. Events and parties, this is something we've done with our cocktails. We send these cocktails to hundreds of people all over the world, and then do Zoom parties from our bars. The problem is they're just looking at each other, 200 people looking at, it's just boring. What if I could see my avatar in a bar and I could just zoom into that group and have a little chat with them and then go into zoom into that group? That's much more fun than just looking at 200 faces and you don't even know what to do. So this is also coming very soon. And the list can go on. You can have virtual experiences, you can have virtual restaurants where the food is delivered to you, but the experience is delivered to you in another way. And I think, all of you guys, you got to think how you can use one of these protocols in your industry, in your company, and be a little bit ahead. And a request, let's not get left behind. I think hospitality traditionally has been, always gets hurt because we are 5-6 years behind when it comes to innovation. And I think now is the chance. I don't think this will ever come again. The wave is so beautiful, and I think it's so exciting that I think we should get on board before it's too late. And finally, our NFTs are launching next month. So if you want to sign up, please go. This will give you access to discounts, memberships, knowledge base, how to improve your financial and social well-being. So the idea is it's not just a discount card, but you're part of a community which can help each other to grow. That's about it, guys. Thank you very much, and I will take questions.
We've run a bit over, so we're probably going to skip the questions. But I think the general sentiment is a little mind blown. I think we could have done that for about 3 hours with a little more simplification.
I was rushing it too, yes.
No, for sure. And I think that, frankly, you're an amazing innovator, right? I think that what you've done in your career and in the business has been awesome, and we've been watching and chatting over a long period, and it's incredible. And I think that it's important within this forum, which is about innovation and thinking forward, that we really do think forward. But I think tangibly, people really struggle to kind of look at here to here. Yeah. And I think actually there's probably some more work to be done, and I think we should definitely talk about how we can address that in terms of, I mean, one person brought up there that how we're getting on with getting landlords to accept cryptocurrency, for instance. You know, some real practicalities there. So a big round of applause for Seb. Thank you.